Well, welcome to the Christy Jones Show, where it's all about living your life to the fullest. I'm a life coach, speaker, and business owner in multifamily real estate, and I've had wild success in multifamily housing for over 25 years now. I am so passionate about helping others merge their success and lead a fulfilling life, and I bring it all together right here on this podcast. So join me and let's get started to live your life to the fullest. Hey, my friends, welcome back to another week here on the podcast. We're going to have some fun today. I am going to talk about something that's really like time sensitive right now as we're going into summer. And I know that this is going to really focus you in, dial in, something that you need to give yourself some time and space to think through these next few months. So I want to talk about working smarter this summer. I want to talk about how you can make more space for what matters most. You know that I talk often about success and fulfillment. So yes, I know the people that are listening and that show up here or that are in my community, you're high achievers. You want to get the most out of yourself, out of your life. You've got goals. And sometimes while all that is great, because I'm right there with you, sometimes we're just wired the way we're wired. Am I right? Um, but here's like sometimes the downside of that. The downside sometimes could be you burning out, you not allowing yourself to create time for the things that fill you up, that bring you joy. And when we're going into the summer, and again, a lot of you love summer. Maybe you have kids. Maybe you're juggling like just everything in your life, your work and your home life and your families. And going into the summer, I mean, if kids are out of school, like your whole routine, even if they have activities or if they still go to daycare, that's kind of what I did way back in the day, or there's summer camps, all the different things that you have to structure your week. But if you're a parent, summer takes on a whole new landscape for you. A ton more planning goes into it. And you have to be way more proactive than maybe you have to be at other times of the year. But even if you were not a parent, summertime kind of is a time when maybe that's when people that you like to do things with are more available based on what's going on in their life. So whether it's travel, whether it's vacations, whether it's going to visit people that mean a lot to you, to go visit family, summer generally is a time where a little more things can go on and people and again, it might be weather related, it might be, somewhere that you want to go to the beach, you want to get it in a different environment. Some people like to go to the mountains in the summertime. But it's generally a time where there's a little more on your list of things that you want to do for your life outside of your business, outside of your career or your work. Okay. So I want to talk about how to work smarter this summer and you can make space for what matters so much to you. Again, we're talking about success and fulfillment. And when those two things they get like out of balance too much, then that's when, all the distress comes on and the way we feel. It affects our mental health. I talk about burnout sometimes. But you really want to make sure that you're still making room in your life for the things that fulfill you, that bring you joy. And the positive effects of that, sometimes I have people say, but I don't want my business to suffer, my career to suffer. I'm working on a project. It doesn't have to be like that. Realize that when we do things that refresh us, restore us, replenish us, that fill us up, that makes us that much more effective at the thing that we do, whatever that your area of expertise, whatever it is that you are focusing on building, growing, whatever that is for you, that you can do that so much better when you take care of the other part of your life. Okay. All right, so let's jump into this. And this is dropping this episode. It's kind of good timing for this too, because this episode's going to drop sometime like mid to late May. And for most of us, that's, right before Memorial Day. And then we are heading into prime time, summertime. So I really want to give this to you. And I'm going to have a PDF, and that'll be down in the show notes. And download that PDF because that will give you a little bit of a roadmap. Super simple. I made it short and sweet to the point. I don't want you like spending like 2 hours on creating this specific plan for yourself. It's basically, I'm going to call it the Flourishing Summer Strategy. Okay, so this is going to be nice, short, sweet, direct, but it's going to give you a little bit of an outline. So you're going forward with some direction and get that momentum going for yourself. I know back when, and I talked about burnout just a second ago. I know when I was first an entrepreneur and my son was and that was in the years he was in when I say middle school, elementary school. And so the summers would come up and, I was really, had all the things just like you going on in my career and in my business, but yet wanted to find ways to be present and find that balance so I could have the time available to do the things that I could go do and break away and go do with him throughout the summer. And I will say, and what I learned from that is I got better at it as time went on. Even before I was a business owner and I was working for another company, and and summer would come about. You have to be like so many steps ahead of having the plan lined out. If you need childcare, if you need activities, or whatever that is, if you're able to adjust your work schedule, fantastic, if that's something that you want to do. But you have to start laying that groundwork really early. You don't wait until like a month before and go, I should get a plan for this. You can, it's going to be a little harder, and you maybe, there's going to be some, little roadblocks that are there that starting, 6 months ahead of time is a much easier transition, gives you plenty of time to explore options, especially if you're working for someone and you want to have some dialogue about any type of adjustments or flexibilities, understanding kind of what your workload's going to be during those maybe 3.5 months of summer, so you can better plan and prepare and have yourself set up for success so that you can balance those two things of, still achieving your goals and getting the things done at work, but also allowing the time for yourself and your family or whomever you're hanging out with so that you can do the things, make time for the things that fill you up, that replenish you and restore you. So I've got like 6 talking points, but I'm going to only really jump into 3 of those. I'll touch on the others, but you definitely want to go into the show notes and find the clickable link to get to the PDF that you can download so you can make your own flourishing strategy for summer. Okay. All right. So first thing I want to talk about is in order for you to move into the summer season and move into it in a way that feels good, that you're going to be able to really enjoy this summer season, is you're going to have to shift in the way you look at things and even in how you move and how you show up. You got to shift from busy to intentional. So we're going to think about that. We all have things that we just stay busy at, right? We can be busy. We can be busy 24 freaking hours a day if we wanted to. But we're going to go from being busy to intentional. And summer isn't about, I'm not like pitching to you that summer's about doing less. I'm not saying that. But it is about doing the right things. That's where you've got to put some thought behind busyness and then doing things that are actually with intention, that are going to really make a difference. Again, we don't want to just see how busy we can be. And this honestly is good to think about all during the year, but especially if you're going into a time where you have some other things in your life and, maybe even your home life with your family that you're wanting to, weave in and make sure you have time for, you really got to get good at understanding what is busy work and what are things that you can do that are intentional. So it's not about doing less, it's about doing the right things. Also, we all have a to-do list. And actually, last week on the podcast, I had an amazing guest, and we actually talked about productivity and time management. And she jumped into the to-do list. So if you want to know maybe how to manage your to-do list a little better, go back and listen to that episode. It is episode 109, I believe. But when you're looking at your to-do list as we're going into summer, okay, and I really encourage you to do this and like look forward 90 days. Okay. So you can kind of start mapping out the next 90 days, but definitely, and again, we mentioned this last week in the podcast. I prefer to do it on Sundays, but before your week begins, sit down, look at your week, and really audit your to-do list. Make sure that you have really got that dialed in to what feels right. So for the summer, for what I'm talking about today, on how we're going to work smarter and going into summer, and we're going to create more space for what matters most, I want you to audit your to-do list on a very regular basis. And I want you to ask yourself these questions. What's absolutely essential on this list that I have? What's on this list that's really ego-driven? That's really just feeding my ego? And then what's on this list that's outdated? That really, I just have it on the list because I've kind of always had it on the list of things to do this in the month of June, things to do in the month of, but is any of that outdated? Does it really align with your current values? Does it really align with the season of life you're in right now? So it is okay to audit your list and to really and like decide, is this really essential, or does this just make me feel good because it's on my list and it's something easy for me to get done, but it's creating busy work? Is it really moving with intention? And the ego thing, a lot of times, and that's where self-awareness really comes into play, is knowing, like, are there things that I'm putting on my schedule, on my list, just because it just feeds that ego. Our egos are really sneaky little thing, and high achievers, I mean, if you're moving through your life and you're not really self-aware, it's so easy for the ego to make decisions for you. Okay. So really analyze your list and audit it. So what's essential? What's maybe ego driven on there, and what's outdated? Those are 3 questions to ask yourself when you're looking at your to-do list. So audit it, very good. And then ask yourself when we're talking, and I'm still talking about going from being busy, because we know you're good at that, to being intentional. Okay, so the next thing I want you to ask is, what's the one result that I want to create this summer? And you can ask yourself that in terms of in terms of your work. So what is like one thing that when I get to the end of summer, I really want this result? So get clear on that. And then also for, your family life, for yourself, like personally, for you, filling yourself up, replenishing, relaxation, all the things, all the fun things of summer that come with that. I want you to ask, what's the one result I want to have with myself at the end of summer? It's so easy to make it about everybody else, but if you don't, it is okay to go, what do I want? What do I want? It is perfectly okay that you ask yourself that and that you're clear on that. So what is the one result that you want to have for yourself or that you want to create for yourself this summer? What's something that's like, I want to create this for myself. By the end of summer, this is the result I'm hoping for. This is what I want to do. So I really encourage you to look at your, if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, then you get what I'm saying. Even if you are in a job that you're like, I don't really love my job, but it's what I'm doing right now because my friend, every single thing we do is a building block to what's next. Okay. So we have to give 100% of ourselves and of our expertise. And I believe in any job or responsibility that we take on because it is all feeding into what's next. So if you're in something, you're like, I really don't care. Not the best attitude to have because you'll probably be stuck there. Okay. So I would really work on your thoughts about that. Maybe get a coach, get a mentor, get out of that stinking thinking. Because if you're not where you want to be and you want change, that type of thinking and mentality is not going to create that for yourself. So give yourself what you need so you can reframe your thoughts about that so you can get the results that you want and land the type of work that you want to do, the job you want, the business you want to start, whatever. Okay. We don't have room for stinking thinking. We got to get out of that. So those are my three talking points on going from being busy, which I know you're good at, to being intentional. And when you shift the way you think, when you make that shift in your mind, you're going to automatically create so much more space for yourself for what matters most, for what you want to create and experience this summer. So that's number one. The next thing I'm going to talk about is automate and delegate. Automate and delegate. And here's what I'm talking about. I want you to basically think of all the things that when you sit and think about, I generally break it up by month. So we're in May. I look at June, I look at July, I look at August, and I break that up. And I basically go, okay, like you already probably have things going on in each of those months. So you need to look at those months. And then I want you to decide of all of that you're looking at, we're going to start looking at any of that stuff that can be automated, delegated, outsourced. So we're going to look at our list of things that are going on. Excuse me. And we are going to say what can be scheduled? What can be outsourced? What can I actually schedule in now so that I'm not doing it in June or July? So break up your months, and we're going to talk about being more proactive than reactive. I mean, I'm huge in the business world on this when I was in multifamily housing, like on a day-to-day basis. One of the things I preached all the time to my team was the more proactive we are, and then everything is just going to work so much smoother. And not only is your life going to be better on site, dealing with all the things in multifamily, in the apartment business, but you're just so much better prepared. There's already going to be surprises that come up. There's already surprises. Okay. There's always going to be unexpected things that you have to make decisions, game time decisions, react, and go. So everything else that you can do to be more proactive, do that. And because if you don't and you're not proactive, everything just kind of like snowballs. It just builds and builds and builds and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you've got this huge thing that you've got to deal with later. So be proactive. So that's how I want you to look at your summer, your June, July, and August. What can you be proactive on? What can you already start to schedule out? What can you outsource to free up more time for yourself? So I want you to think like if you have scheduled emails that go out to in regarding your work, if you have scheduled emails that go out to clients, to employees, to your team. If you already know some scheduled things that need to go out, draft those emails now. Get them scheduled. There's all types of, software and programs that we can use where we can pre-schedule those emails. So anything communications that are like going to be standard communications that this is what has to be sent out in June, this has to be sent in July, this has to be sent in August, get those in your system and scheduled. So get those done now. What can you outsource? What can you outsource? Let's just talk about some personal things like that we all have to have food in the house and get groceries. We all have laundry. We all have to either buy our food or cook our food, right? So when you're looking at, you've already spent some time to decide what it is you're wanting to create for yourself this summer over the next 3 months, both when it comes to your work life and when it comes to your personal life. Okay. So you have to get clear on that. So now when you're deciding, what am I going to automate? What am I going to delegate? What am I going to outsource? You know what the end result is that you're wanting. So now you can start picking apart what your month looks like, or the things that you have coming up. So let's talk about this. Laundry. Maybe you need to have a laundry service. Maybe you outsource your laundry. Maybe you don't do it all summer. Maybe you do it 1 month. But look at some of your common chores that if you don't already outsource those, what are some things that you could outsource or delegate so that it lightens your load over the summer months? So that could be like a laundry service, um, ordering and having your groceries delivered. Maybe you already do that. I do, because it wears me out sometimes. I mean, it's just a time thing. It's like, okay, I could sit here, boom, 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 order them, and then they're coming, versus it taking a whole hour of my time, hour and a half, to go physically go do that. There's times I still like to go do it, but when time is of the essence, it's right here, right here. Order it, have it delivered. Maybe when it comes to meal services, maybe it's a meal delivery service. Maybe you bring in someone to help with meal prep. Maybe even if it's just like 2 days, like 2 nights a week that you're not having to like shuffle and figure out dinner, right? So I'm not, a lot of times people go, oh, I couldn't do that. Well, first of all, that's horrible thinking. Don't tell me all the reasons why you can't, because you're already going to go find evidence of why you can't. Well, I can't afford it. Well, that you don't have to maybe do it 5, 7 days a week. What if you do it 2 days a week? Have you looked at what that is? So there's all kinds of creative problem solving. So make sure you don't let your brain go into the like all or nothing way of thinking. Okay. Get into creative problem solving. So what can you outsource? Um, Also wanted to suggest that when it comes to scheduling, um, and again, this can literally apply to your business life or your personal life, your home life, but a virtual assistant. If you are new to the world of having a virtual assistant, I would encourage you, reach out to me. I'll fill you in a little bit on that, because I utilize those type of services for a variety of things. But virtual assistants are exactly that. They are, whether you might need something in the business sector, there is basically it's anything under the sun. You can hire somebody, so you're not having to, because maybe you just want to have some help during the summer, right? So you need a virtual assistant to do some tasks for you remotely, that they can handle that and do that. And then come September, you don't have to continue with those virtual services. So consider a virtual assistant. It is a great way to open up time on your schedule and allow a qualified person to be able to handle some of the things that you can delegate. So if you want to know more about that, just reach out to me. And I also have some great resources on who to reach out to. So So yeah, you gotta really look at letting your systems work harder so you don't have to. And when I say systems, I'm talking about various automations that we can set up, the delegations that you can do. You got to look, and let's be real, every business and every home has a system, right? You are running a system, and you need to look at ways that you can simplify, automate, delegate. So that is the first one is shifting from busy to intentional. The second one is automate and delegate. And also within that automate and delegate, you got to be proactive instead of reactive. So being proactive, looking ahead for 90 days and mapping that out. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about at length is you creating a summer success list. I really believe that, I've done I think it was maybe 2 years ago, in my coaching anyways, we did like a summer bucket list. And I'm like kind of done with the bucket list thing. So I'm going to talk about you creating a flourish list, a list of your personal list and you creating that for yourself that makes you really feel like you are flourishing in your life, living your life to the fullest. And with summer coming up, there is no better time. If you have never done that, now is definitely the time that you want to sit down and make your flourish list. And you don't have to go way, 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 way out into the future. I'm just talking about let's look at these next 3 months, okay? Let's look at these next 3 months. What is going to make summer feel aligned with what you want? What is going to make your summer feel aligned with what you want? With creating the life you want. What feels right? So that's you that those are the things you're going to start putting on your flourish list. And you can kind of, another way to do this is to pick some themes. So you pick like maybe, let's say 3 themes, and you build your list around that. Because a lot of times when we get asked, like, make your list. When I say make your flourish list, some of you are going to go, I got it. And you start writing it down. And others are going to just kind of like deer in the headlights. And I don't know where to start because I got so many things. So, like, I just want to do it all. Well, we got to get specific, right? If we want to really get results, we can't have just very like open-ended, unclear goals, right? We have to get really clear. We got to dial it in. So maybe choose 3 themes. Choose 3 themes and then build your list around that. 3 themes that I wrote down was connection, adventure, and peace. And then I'm just tossing 3 out there. So those are 3 different themes. And I'm going to build my list, my flourish list around those themes. So meaning connection, under the connection, I'd make a column for connection. It's actually on my on the PDF download. So you definitely need to go download that. Um, but for a column for connection, and then start writing things down that are on your flourish list that align with creating the life that you want to have and that fall under that theme of connection. And then do it for the other themes, adventure, peace, create your own themes. You can borrow mine or you can create your own. And that's a really easy way to kind of like manage our brains and get our thoughts going when sometimes, and I do this on other things too, where it's like you stare at the paper and you're just like, and you can't think of the first thing to write. It's like writer's block. So if that's you, then do the themes. Pick 3 themes that you want to be the theme of your summer, and then start putting your flourish list items under each of those, and that will get you on your way. Once you get going, then it's kind of like, okay, I got to stop. There's no way I can do all of this and create all of this in 90 days. But then if you have just this massive list, you go back to the busy versus intentional. What aligns with where you're at in the season of life, what aligns with your values right now, what aligns with, and really making sure that it aligns with the ideal life that you're wanting to create, that you're in the process of creating, because we're all in the process of creating that. So, two other things that I will touch on, actually three other things that I'll touch on, is batching your workflows. That is key when it comes to any of the things you have in your work life. You've got to batch your workflow. For instance, you might have for the summer, you might restructure it to where on Mondays you do this. On Tuesdays, you do all your calls that if you have calls, sales calls or cold calls or whatever. So maybe batching those on certain days. Really batching your work to where it just productive wise, it makes more sense. If you have to do, like I do podcasts, I do a lot of video recording, I try to do those within I have two specific days that I try to batch all of that in. Now, occasionally, there'll be an extra thing I have to record or I forgot to add, I got to add something in. But for the most part, I already know what days I'm going to be batching my video production and getting that type of work done. So really look at your workflow and figure out how to batch that for the summer season. Next thing I'll mention is time blocking. We talked about it a little bit last week. If you go to episode 109, go in the show notes. Danielle has a PDF, or no, she has a link to a blog post that she's done that's about time blocking, and it's really helpful to go read that. But we talk about time blocking in the professional work life, but I want you to look at time blocking for your personal life. And when you do that, that might be something that as you go into the summer season, time block your life, not just your work stuff. So, like time block, these are going to be our beach days. This is going to be beach time. I'm time blocking this for taking lunch with my kids. I'm going to time block this to taking walks by myself, taking a walk with my friend, meeting my friend. So, time block your life just like you would time block your work schedule. The last thing falls into the work sector, and I call it light touch leadership. And you really want to make sure that if you're leading a team or you're leading a business, that you're not just like MIA, okay? Just because you've got a lot of personal things that you're doing over the summer, maybe with your family, your kids, and things like that. So you have to stay plugged in, and you've got to keep things moving without micromanaging. But light touch leadership is something that I talk about from time to time. And it's really teaching your team how to self-manage, and really you continuing to, do your weekly check-ins or however often you're there with your team and the various people that you work with. But really, and it's a process to teach your team to self-manage. They get better at it as time goes, but and everyone's going to be on if you have a large team, there's going to be people at different stages of that. So, but what you don't want to do over the summer months is just, like I said, go MIA and make it all about you and your your personal life and all the other things going on, because they want to be able to have, a flourish list as well. So if you're learning about this and you lead a team, maybe this would be a great episode to share with them so that they can make sure that they're going into the summer in a way that allows them to, recharge and to renew and to stay fulfilled. So you don't want your team or the people or your employees that work with you and for you to be burnt out and exhausted and not have fulfillment. You want success and fulfillment for them too. So this would be an excellent episode to pass along and share with them. All right, my friends, that is a wrap. You really have to, again, be proactive. going into the summer. Um, I'm hoping that you've started this several months ago, but if you haven't, no sweat. I got you because I'm going to give you that download. It's going to get you on your way. So go to the show notes, okay? So you can like start making your flourishing summer strategy right now. So, if you know someone that needs this episode, would you share it with them? Would you share it on your social? I would be eternally grateful for that. And as always, rate and review the show. I'm so glad that you're here hanging out with me. I can't wait to talk to you again next week. And until then, keep flourishing, keep thriving, and I will see you very soon. And we're going to have an awesome summer too. I cannot wait. I want to hear some of your flourishing list ideas too. So drop in my DMs, drop me an email because I want to see what you come up with. Talk soon. Bye. I want to thank you for tuning in today to the podcast, and I hope you've enjoyed the conversation and all the info that's been shared today. And I hope you've come away with a few ideas on how to make the most out of it for your life. If you loved this episode, be sure to share it with your friends and family. And also make sure you subscribe to the podcast and tap that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Also, it would mean the absolute world to me if you would leave a podcast review. So until next time, my friend, keep flourishing and thriving and live your life to the